Hello, everyone. Hello. On today's podcast episode, I'm going to talk about duality and how the dual opposites end up having the same effect. So let me give you an example. When an object is moving fast, right? No, let me start from the beginning. The opposite of fast is slow. The opposite of movement is non-movement, right? So when an object is moving fast, an object that's moving slow appears to be standing still. When an object is moving slow, the object that's moving fast is the one that appears to be standing still instead. It's perspective. From the point of view of an object that's moving slow, right? When you see the object that's moving fast, you won't think it's the object that's moving. You think it's you that's moving. You're either moving fast towards it or you're moving fast away from it. From the point of view of the object that's moving fast, it's the equal and opposite. From when you drive a car, right? The car, everything that you're passing, if you're passing other cars that are slower than you, the cars that are slower than you would not look like they're moving at all. It would look like they're standing still, right? You're the one moving, they're not moving. But the truth is you're both moving. But because you're moving faster than them, it appears as if they're standing still and you're the one that's moving fast, right? This is a normal, but there are videos out there you can watch where people stand still, right? They stand, in the middle of a highway, not in the middle, like the cross section between the two opposite lanes. They stand there, and from their point of view, it'll look like they're the ones that are moving, and it's actually the car that's standing still. The fast-moving cars appear to be the one standing, and the person that's standing appears to be the one moving. That's not an illusion. That's how life works. When something goes too fast, you will not see it move. When something goes too slow, you will also not see it move. What this means is, when something goes too fast, your eyes will not be able to see it move. Because your eyes cannot see movement, When something goes too fast, your eyes, the light will not bounce off it fast enough for your eyes to see it. If it goes too fast, your eyes will not be able to recognize that it's moving. It will just disappear before your very eyes. You won't recognize its movement. You'll only know that it disappeared. When something's going too slow, it has the same effect. You will not be able to see it move. Just like your body. Your body is covered with cells. When you're laying down, you don't see your body moving, right? When you lay down or you put a cup on the floor, put a cup on the ground, you never see that cup move once. But yet the atoms within that cup are always moving. Yet the cup itself is standing still. Yet the atoms within it is moving. So that's how the world works. The world works off perspective. It's a world of relativity. Movement only appears to be moving. Something only appears to be moving relative to something else. Meaning, it's only moving from one point of view. From another point of view, it's actually standing still. That's one example. Let me give you another example. When something is too far, when an object is too far from you, you'll never be able to see it clearly. When an object is too close from you, the equal opposite of far is close, right? When an object is too close to you, you'll never be able to see it clearly either. The two opposites end up meeting at the same point. The two opposites end up creating the same effect. When, have you ever, let's go back to the movement part. Have you ever sat in a car and felt like you're not moving at all? When you drive, when you drive, when you drive in a car and you're moving at the same speed, right? At a consistent speed, it appears as if you're not moving at all. This is one of those wonders of the world where you have to be warned that, just because your car appears as if it's standing still does not mean you're not moving. You can even go a billion miles an hour, but you'll not be able to tell that you're moving fast because it's just the basic laws of the world where movement only appears to be moving relative to something else. If there's no matter around you, right, when you're moving, if there's nothing else around you that's moving or that's standing still, that's moving slow or standing still, you will not be considered moving if you're moving. Let's say if two objects are moving at the same speed forward, right? From the point of view of both objects, they're not moving at all. That's how life works. From the point of view of two objects, if they're moving at the same speed forward, it'll appear as if they're standing still. Yet they're moving. From the point of view of an object that's standing still, it does not even know that it's moving. It only, there are two different points, just because an object is standing still does not mean it's not moving. Just because an object is moving does not mean it's not standing still. These two states exist simultaneously within both objects. And in order to find out, what is actually happening, you have to look from different perspectives. Life works off perspectives. Something that's hot, if something gets too hot, you'll die. If the world, if the world around you gets too hot, life will die. If the world gets too cold, life will also die. That's how duality works. The two extremes meet up, end up having the same effect. If everything is hot, right? If everything works off an equilibrium, if everything is hot, and your body can live in a high temperature, then the temperature will not be considered hot. It will be room temperature to you. Room temperature does not mean it's cold or warm. It just means it's the temperature that your body is capable, is normal temperature for your body. The human body functions at a certain temperature. To certain life forms, our body temperature, our normal body temperature is too hot for them. For other life forms, it is too cold. For some chemicals, for some elements, room temperature is too cold for them. For other elements, room temperature is too hot. Yes, there are elements in this world that, freeze at room temperature. Iron is an element that freezes, iron is not an element, but iron is an item that freezes at room temperature. That's why it's hot. That's why it's hard. Rocks, these things are not hard because they're hard. They're hard because they're in the frozen states. We don't see rocks as frozen because they're usually at the same temperature as us. But it's actually, they're frozen is our normal life, right? Our normal living temperature is their extreme cold. This is why they're frozen. If you increase the temperature, they start to melt. They start to get into a liquid state. So it's all perspective. Something is only hot relative to something else. The temperature of the world around us, it's comfortable for us to live in, but it's not comfortable for some animals, for some life forms to live in. It's hot to some life forms and it's cold to others. Room temperature is hot to some life forms and it's cold to others. It's all perspective. That's from the perspective of water, right? Water is liquid at room temperature because from its perspective, room temperature is so hot that it melts it. From the point of view of water, room temperature is very, very hot. That's why water is in a liquid state at room temperature. For humans, room temperature is perfect, right? 70 degrees, 60 degrees. This is, like optimal for us. But from a different perspective, from the perspective of water, room temperature is extremely hot. So what does that mean? Within hot, there's cold. Within cold, there's hot. Something that's cold can also be seen as something that's hot from a different perspective. Something that's hot can be seen as something that's cold from a distant perspective. Both opposites exist simultaneously together as one. When something is moving fast, it is also moving slow from a different perspective. When something is moving, it is also not moving from a different perspective. When something exists, it also doesn't exist from a different perspective. All opposites exist simultaneously. Just like I said before, with in the world of quantum physics, light can be both a particle and a wave. Light exists as a particle and a wave together. It is something that exists as both a particle and a wave, and can be either a particle or a wave. Yes, light is both at the same time. And it's just how the whole world works. Even at the quantum level, the rules doesn't change. The world of duality doesn't change. The rules of duality does not change. Something that exists does not exist simultaneously. Something that doesn't exist, what we consider non-existence, exists from a different perspective. Something that we call far is close from a different perspective. Something that we call close is far from a different perspective. Something we call up is down from a different perspective. Something that we call down is up from a different perspective. So what I'm trying to say is, just because a tree, if you stand in front of a tree, right? The tree is close to you, right? But for someone who isn't standing in front of the tree is far away. So the tree is both close and far away at the same time. Both states exist for the tree. It is both close to you and far away at the same time. And there's other perspective. The earth is round, right? So when you stand in front of a tree, it is right next to you, right? It is directly in front of you, but it's also very far away from your back. It's very close to your front, but it's far away from your back. You understand what I'm trying to say? Since the earth is a circle, something is both close and far at the same time. If you're standing in front of a building, the building is right directly in front of you. You can walk, towards it. But at the same time, the equal and opposite exists, because you're living in a circle, on top of a circle. Your back is facing far from the tree. Your back is away from the tree. So your back is away from the tree. The tree can also be considered far away from your back at the same time. So although the tree is close to you, the tree is also far away from you at the same time. So what this means is, the world is very complicated. What we consider existence does not exist from a different perspective. What we consider non-existence exists from a different perspective. We don't make the rules. The rules have always been here, So no matter how much you want to argue that, this isn't how the rules work, it's just basic, it's just like the laws of thermodynamics. This is just the rules of the world. You just observe the rules and you write it down, or you state it to people, I'm not going to argue over the rules because I'm not the one who created the rules. God created the rules. If you want to argue how the rules work, argue with God or argue with scientists. But these are, these are what you need to be careful of, or these are what you need to be, to pay attention to in life, is that the equal opposites have the same effect. Something that's moving fast, something that's far away can be seen clearly. Something that's up close can also not be seen clearly. The earth is right there it's right in front of us, right? It's right here, right under us, right under our feet. But no matter how much we look, we can never see the whole earth clearly. It's too close to us. For us to be able to see the earth clearly, we have to move at it, you have to be far away at at a perfect distance to be able to see the whole earth as it truly is. Because we're so close to the earth, many people think the earth is flat. They're incapable of realizing that, that the earth is round because we're too close to the earth. Because we're so close, we're incapable of seeing it properly. Likewise, if the earth is far away, it has the same effect. It looked like a dot it looked like a dot in the sky. That's why many people believe that, the planets in the sky are just stars. They don't see them as real planets because they're so far away. They don't think, they can't see them because they can't see them clearly. Because they see them far away, they think they're like tiny little dots. They don't know that these planets are massive mammoths that are even bigger than the Earth. They just see them as tiny little dots. When it's too far away, you can't, when something is too far away, it's hard to see. When something is too close, it's also hard to see. When something is too tall, it's hard to see. When something is too small, it's also hard to see. When something is too big, it is hard to see. When something is too small, it is also hard to see. When something is too fast, it is hard to see. It's hard to see its movement. When something is too slow, it's also hard to see its movement. You can't see that, when something is not moving, when something is moving too slow, it appears as if it's not moving at all. Because it takes years, billions of years to move. If something takes billions of years to move, it appears as if it's not moving. From our small perspective, who wants to wait a billion years for something to move? If it takes a billion years to move just 1 inch, less than an inch, it appears as if it's not moving at all. Is that not true? If something takes a billion years to just move half a centimeter, when from our perspective, no matter how much we look at it, we'll never even think it moves. And that's how life works. Both states exist simultaneously within each other, and both states have the same effect. Both opposites have the same effect. Positive is only positive when there's negative, when negativity is there as a contrast. Negative is only negative when there's positivity there as a contrast. Without the perspective of negative, there's no such thing as positive. Without the perspective of positive, there's no such thing as negative. Without this perspective of small, there's no such thing as large. Without this perspective of large, there's no such thing as small. Without this perspective of existence, there's no such thing as non-existence. Without this perspective of non-existence, there's no such thing as existence. We don't exist. From this, this is one of how the world works. The world follows a pattern of duality. The world is a logical world, and there are no coincidences. Yet everything feels like random chance. There are no coincidences, yet everything feels like random chance. You're moving so fast that everything starts to appear slow. When you move too fast, things just, start to appear as if they're moving slow. That's how life works, We exist. Because we exist, it appears as if we don't exist. Non-existence exists. And because it exists, it appears as if it doesn't exist. Everything appears, positive and negative come together as one. Existence and non-existence come together as one. They can't be separated. Left and right come together as one. Big and small come together as one. Before and after come together as one. I know I've talked about this before in many other episodes, but this is how the world works. The rules of the world works in the world, in duality. Everything is, we live in a world of duality where there are always two opposite states. If you see one, you always, you can infer the opposite just from one point you can go to the other. You can infer the other. From small, you can infer large. From left, you can infer large. From left, you can infer right. From fast, you can infer slow. From movement, you can infer non-movement. And the world seems complicated, but it's actually very, very simple. The world is very, very simple, so it appears very, very complicated. Both states always exist simultaneously. God seems very, very confusing, but yet God is very, very simple. God is everything. Because God is everything, you can't see God anywhere. Atoms are everywhere. Because atoms are everywhere. No matter where you look, you don't see atoms, do you? When you look around, you see houses, you see cars, you see buildings, you see color, you see shape. You see, the world around you looks full with, things. But yet these things are atoms. But when you look around you, you don't see atoms. You see a car, but you don't see the atoms within the car, do you? You see the human body, you see the cells, but you don't see the atoms within the cells. You see the blood, you see the, organs, you see this, but you don't see the atoms, do you? Yet the human body is all atoms. The whole world is all atoms, yet you don't see the atom. When you're everywhere, you appear to be nowhere. God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. Because God is omnipresent, it appears as if it doesn't exist whatsoever. And that's what you need to understand. It's not that God doesn't exist. It's because since God is everything, that's what, since God is everything, the very fact that He's everything means it's hard for you to see it. It's hard for you to see God. So God exists and doesn't exist at the same time. Because we exist and don't exist at the same time. We're not moving, yet we're also moving at the same time. It's all perspective. In this world, everything is perspective. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.